Good evening and welcome to The Naked Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Dr. Sean Wise, Professor of Entrepreneurship and Strategy at Ryerson University. In each episode of The Naked Entrepreneur Show, we feature an icon who's made it big in business. Each guest reveals the truth, the naked truth, behind their success. Tonight's episode features visionary entrepreneur Bruce Poon Tip. Bruce Poon Tip is the founder of G Adventures, the largest travel adventure company in the world. Bruce started the company at age 22 with only 2 credit cards. Now, 20 years later, G Adventures is continuing to expand year after year with double-digit growth. Bruce was born in Trinidad and immigrated to Canada when he was only 4. Bruce seemed destined for entrepreneurial success as the corporate world couldn't handle him. Bruce was fired from both Denny's and McDonald's before he was age 16. Today, Bruce's company continues to thrive. With more than 2,000 employees and more than 1,000 trips in 100 countries, Bruce continues to push the envelope when it comes to travel and tourism.
Some ideas are hot, some ideas are not. This is a hot idea. Twitter, using 148 characters to instantly digitally connect with anyone in the real world. This is not. Jersey Shore, 8 characters, not connected to anything real in the world. This is a hot idea. Facebook, efficiently sharing social news with your friends. This is not. Using Facebook to show how drunk you were at the office party. This is a hot idea. Posting your unwanted goods to Craigslist, the world's home of free classified ads. This is not. Posting your sister to Craigslist. Friends don't let friends pursue bad ideas. Find out if your idea is hot or not.
Welcome back to The Naked Entrepreneur. I'm Sean Wise, and our guest tonight, Bruce Poon Tip. Bruce, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I want to go back to 1990, to where it all began.
Okay.
Did you ever think when you started Gap Adventures, now G Adventures, did you ever expect to be employing 1,200 people, to be running over 1,000 different adventures? Did you ever dream it would be this big?
No. Maybe this big, but not as global as it's become. I don't think I had the tools to think that big from my upbringing.
So let's talk about that upbringing. Where does your passion for travel begin?
I don't know where it actually begins. I think it's just a natural curiosity for other cultures in the world. I mean, I'm an immigrant here to Canada, so I traveled early to get here. And it was always kind of an interest of mine to see other places and learn about other people. And from that, I mean, travel's a vehicle for that.
Now you talk about coming to Canada, and I'm always interested in the early lives of entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And whether it's those early lives that shape them, are they born, do they choose? Let's talk about it. What was early life like for you before Canada?
I don't know. I came here very young, so it was all about diapers and baby food. So I came here when I was like 3.
What led to the relocation?
Well, I come from a big family, so my parents are from Trinidad, and there's 7 kids in my family, and my parents came here for opportunity for their kids. I think that was the main that was the main driving force for my parents making the decision. They had 7 kids and knew at one point they'd have to choose between their kids to send away to school, and they knew they couldn't send all 7, so they decided they would move to where the schools are.
It's interesting. Mm-hmm. Talk to me more about that early days in Canada.
Okay.
Growing up in Canada and what your experience was like?
It was tough actually for us. I mean, we were in Calgary. I mean, I arrived in Calgary in, in 1969. It was, I mean, I think my parents were ill prepared in many ways for, winters, first of all, and just, a very different cultural life. So, I mean, luckily, I think being a big family, we were very close and we supported each other and pretty much became much of an island. So I had a really good upbringing in Calgary. But I think it was tough. It was tough for our family. We're a typical immigrant story coming here for opportunity, and my parents made the best with what they had and worked very hard. We took care of each other. My both parents worked all the time.
So in that case, did the younger kids be looked after by the older kids? Was
Yeah.
it a family? Were you helping out of the family business?
Yeah, there was no family business. It was work. There was work, and the older kids pitched in. I mean, it was 7 kids. We were quite spread out. I'm the second youngest. 3 brothers, 3 sisters I have, and everyone pitched in. Everyone did things. I tell my kids this all the time. They complain about the chores they have around the house. It's nothing compared to what I used to do when I was their age.
Well, tell us about when you were their age and the chores that you would do. Did it encompass everything from laundry to cooking the foods?
Yeah, we just did everything, yeah. I mean, I used to just do everything. I mean, everything we did, like we did laundry certain days of the week for the entire family. We did grocery shopping. I cooked for our entire family at the age of probably 12.
So 12 years old, you're
I'd have
cooking
a
for
day
an
of the
entire
week.
family.
Yep.
Like you'd be the Wednesday chef.
Yes. And we'd all have a day. We'd all rotate.
Did you have a
pitch
go-to
in.
dish? Were you a macaroni and cheese man?
Hamburger helper was very popular. No,
See, I was in college before I even learned how to use hamburger helper. You're 12 in
Yeah.
Calgary, learning how to feed a family of 9.
yeah, I mean, it was more like I didn't think of it as unusual, I guess, growing up. I thought everybody did it. I mean,
But you went to school with people who had smaller families, who didn't come here as newcomers.
Yep.
Did you see yourself as different from local Calgary people who were born there, people who came from smaller families?
definitely. I mean, definitely we were different. And as the years progressed, I mean, Calgary specifically in the late 60s, early 70s was a very, very different place. And we moved throughout the city in various times in the first, I would say, 15 years. And, but we always, there was a point, I would say, around, when you turn about between 12 and in your teenage years, that when you start realizing that you're different to everyone else.
And how did you see yourself in that period as different from everyone else?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, I started businesses very young, so I had 3 businesses before I turned 15.
Okay.
So I think people thought I was an odd child to begin with.
Well, I had my first business at 13, and people still think I'm odd, so I
Yeah.
don't find that unusual. Tell me about these early businesses. What led you to them? Why did you choose them?
I had an interest in business from very young, so I mean, I think that it was something that just interested me from, my first business was when I was 12, and it was a newspaper delivery service where, you had to be 12 to get paper routes, when papers used to be commonly delivered at homes. And you had to be 12 to get these routes, and I wanted one when I was 11, and I couldn't get one. So I decided I would get as many as I could when I was 12, and I'd contract them out to 11-year-olds.
So you're subcontracting out to the grade behind you.
Yeah, because I
managing
knew
this
there was
little
other kids
empire.
that wanted paper routes at 11, but they couldn't qualify for them till they were 12. So I got a bunch of paper routes in the city and contracted them out to younger kids. My first foray into child labor, and and then I started a rabbit business.
So breeding rabbits, I
Yes,
imagine, not
yes.
renting them out.
Yes, breeding. Yeah, there was an opportunity where I read that there was a new rabbit that didn't grow big. It was called a Dutch dwarf. It stayed small, and the business problem was people would buy rabbits as bunnies, I guess, and they suddenly grow up to be, huge animals, and so they're no longer cute and fuzzy. So it was a problem in the pet industry. So I heard of this Dutch dwarf that was being bred, that never grew to a certain size, and I imported the first ones into Alberta and started selling them at pet stores. One of that was like at 13, and then I joined Junior Achievement at 14, and started a bookmark business.
But where's this drive coming from? in your mind? Do you think it's a product of the fact that you have a big family, everyone has to contribute, if I'm going to be, it's up to me, or was there something else driving you?
You know, I would think that that's logical to think that way, but I don't think so, because I have 6 brothers and sisters who aren't entrepreneurs, and some of them quite lazy.
Well, we'll name them later on in the episode.
And I mean, in many ways, we all kind of understood the sacrifices our parents made, and we always had a bit of a chip on our shoulder to want to take advantage of the opportunity of being in Canada. And that was always kind of playing in the background, but I don't know if that was enough to fuel, you know, just the natural desire an interest in business. Like, I've always just been interested and fascinated by business. And, you know, when other kids were, you know, out, doing what kids do, riding bikes and playing football,
You were busy renting out the bikes to other people.
I was learning how to do, you know, ledgers, and I had these little books in binders, that's what I love to do.
So
it was all manual.
You had the bunny business, you had the newspaper subcontracting, you said there was a third in high school.
Yeah, it was when I joined Junior Achievement. I started a bookmark business, and it was a knit bookmark called the Weatherworm, and it used temperature-sensitive yarn that turned pink when it was hot and blue when it was cold. It was a long kind of bookmark, and I sold them at drugstore counters around the city. And it became extremely popular, and I couldn't make them fast enough. So my first business challenge, I guess, was supply and demand. So I switched to regular bookmarks, and I had every kid, once again, into the child labor market. I had every kid in my neighborhood making bookmarks in my parents' basement. And we must have sold about 10,000 bookmarks. Then I won a gold medal from Junior Achievement that year. And again, I was successful, right? I was successful at what I did. And the story continues, because when I got my first job at 16 at Denny's, I got fired after 2 weeks.
Tell me about that. Tell me about, you're already working for yourself, you're having some success.
Yeah.
Now you decide for whatever reason to get a part-time job at an hourly rate.
Yeah.
What were you thinking going into that was different? Did you want the discount on the food, or did you just want to experience an employee, and what happened?
Well, I mean, all the businesses I had, whilst they were profitable, getting a job was, you know, equally another way to earn money, right? I don't know and even though we sold this many bookmarks and I was relatively successful with the other businesses, I was always hoping to one day just get a regular job that, and, you know, have that experience, but it didn't last very long. So I went to Denny's, I got a job at Denny's and got fired after 2 weeks.
What were you fired for? Remember?
Yeah. Oh, clearly. Because then I actually, if you're ever in Calgary and you're right across the street from Denny's is McDonald's, because I got fired from Denny's, crossed the street, got a job at McDonald's, and I got fired during the training program. Yeah. So.
Remember what led to your being released for other opportunities?
Just, general insubordinates, I guess. I always thought I could do things better than everyone else. I always had a lot of questions. In McDonald's was specifically about a hairnet. I was in the training program and they asked me to wear a hairnet. And I read the manual saying your hair had to be a certain length to wear a hairnet, which mine wasn't, so I questioned it. They thought I was being, you know, difficult, and they fired me.
See, I got fired from McDonald's for a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got fired for asking why I couldn't take the uneaten food that was still warm and take it over to a shelter so that it can be used instead of thrown out.
Yeah.
And they thought that was just the most ridiculous idea ever, to have other people less fortunate not paying for the food but eating it.
Yeah. And Denny's was similar, where I worked a night shift, and we had the Denny's is open 24 hours, and so at night you have to clean and you have these duties. And one of the older waitresses who was on duty as well asked me to do her chores as well, saying that it's my job as a busboy, because I was 16, I think, at the time. And we got into an argument about it. I said, I'm not going to do her work. That's not what I was supposed to do. And yeah, they just thought that was worth an offense worth firing, and I got fired from there too.
So looking back at those high school years, those early years, both the successes and the troubles, do you think they still resonate with you today? Do they still have a lasting impact? Did you learn something there that you walk around with every day?
I think initially the motivation to start G Adventures and to move to Toronto when I was 22, it was definitely there was definitely a road that was in front of me that I followed, and I always felt like my destiny was in front of me, because I was more motivated to start a business after having failed trying to get a job. I don't know if I came out of junior achievement and I had success working at, Denny's or McDonald's, if I'd have been as motivated, because I definitely saw that the only time I was successful is when I did things myself. So I knew that even when I went to school, and my first months taking business classes, I didn't really relate to the thinking, and so I switched to tourism because that's really more of what the way I thought, and so I was very confident and I was very determined because of the experiences I'd had. But yeah, I mean, there's a side of me all the time that I think that I notice as I work with so many people now, and I have an global executive team that reports to me. I notice that there's some people that have that fifth gear, you need to be an entrepreneur, and there's just some people that just don't, and I don't know if they ever will. I certainly don't think you can teach it. You just have to, and it's a cross between a chip on your shoulder and motivation to striving for excellence. There's a little bit of pride, having your name attached to anything, and always doing your best. I think that a lot of those elements come out in people, but putting it all together is what makes, I think, an entrepreneur different.
Well, let's talk about putting it together. Walk me through those early days when you decided to create Gap Adventures, and how you chose that route. And you said you were interested in travel from an early age, but you studied tourism.
Yeah.
How did you come to the decision that I'm going to create not just a travel tourism, but a very niche one, and that's going to dominate the world? I mean, it's no surprise to anyone. You were ranked by National Geographic as the #1 tour operator. So the story ends extremely well if that's your goal. But talk to me about the beginning.
I mean, going into an industry like tourism, tourism is, is one of the oldest industries in the world. So starting another tour company certainly wasn't going to be revolutionary. When I wanted to go traveling myself in 1989, there was no other options. You either had to take a coach tour, or you took a cruise, or you went to a compound resort, or you went backpacking. And I didn't like either of those options. I didn't particularly want to backpack. I didn't want to stay in a resort. A coach tour would be the death of me. And so that's why the name came up, because there was a gap in the market. So Gap was bridging that gap between the backpacker and the mainstream traveler. And I just knew, so when I actually ended up traveling, I went backpacking, and I met a lot of people along the road with the same problem, that were kind of in limbo, but young people with disposable income that wanted a more real, authentic experience, that wanted grassroots experiences, wanted to be in smaller groups, wanted safety, security, wanted cultural immersion type experiences, but didn't want to stay in a compound resort. So that was my eureka moment. I was traveling myself, and I actually moved to Toronto thinking I was going to start a record label.
So you moved to Toronto, originally you wanted to start a record label?
Yeah, I was actually going to start music, and then, this audience is too young, but a band named Nirvana came out in 1990, kids.
They may have heard of it.
Yes, on a classic rock radio station now. But Nirvana came out in 1990 and kind of changed music so dramatically. I thought, music was, it just kind of turned music upside down, and actually came here thinking that that's what I was going to do. Those are the things I was passionate about, travel and music. And so when I went traveling, I realized that was my calling, and that's what I knew that is what I was meant to do. And I came back immediately and started building the company.
Well, when we come back from our break, we will revisit the role that passion played in creating your company. Welcome back. Our guest tonight, Bruce Pitt from Gap Adventures, now known as G Adventures. I want to go back. You're 21. It's about 1990. You want to start this business. You decide music, no. travel, tourism, yes. A lot of people today find it hard to get started. They think they need capital, they need something external to them. But you did it with 2 credit cards and a lot of hard work. Tell me about those early days.
Well, I mean, you're fueled by a lot of passion when you're young, and I was, very determined. I had a really almost political view of what travel should be. I mean, and I've always been very passionate that the way travel was being done at that time, especially, was just wrong. I thought it was destructive. I thought it also was culturally insensitive as well as environmentally insensitive. But it was before that movement existed, so people thought I was just kind of nuts. But at the time there was a race to build a bigger and bigger cruise ship, and travel had just gone so much, to these compounds that isolated people away from people. So I just had almost a political stance on, and it fueled a lot of energy and passion for me, for wanting to, really disruptively innovate in the space of what a traditional tour was and how people looked at a tour. And that was interesting enough for me. I mean, when you're that age, I mean, you have a high tolerance for risk. You have nothing to lose. There's at that point you don't have cars or houses or pets or kids. These kind of things and so it was a great time.
Bruce, you talk a lot about passion and the role it played for you. I know that my students often struggle with finding that passion.
Sure.
They're in university, they're investing heavily in their education, their credentials, but they're not sure how they want to spend the rest of their lives. What advice can you give them in finding the passion?
I think that you should wait till you find it before you make a mistake. I mean, I think that you shouldn't have to search for passion. You shouldn't be trying to look for it. It should come. So if you can't find it, maybe you just don't have enough life experience yet. It'll come, though. I mean, everyone will find their passion eventually, but it's very tough, I think, for students who spend so much time, there's so much pressure to get into the workforce and pay back their student loans, and there's the pressure prior to get into the right schools and study the right things. I think at some point you have to sit back, and let life happen, get some life experience. That might be traveling, that might be getting a job, that might be, I don't know, you might be studying more, I don't know, but get some life experience, and you shouldn't be searching for it. I mean, your passion should hit you like a ton of bricks, and when it does, you should know it.
Now, you've hired historically a lot of young grads. What's the one thing you wish young grads knew before coming out into the real world? Or what do you see they're lacking that you'd love for them to have more of?
Work ethic.
Work ethic. Tell me about that.
Just general work ethic. Like, let your results, work hard, and when your name be conscientious enough that anything that you do, you hold yourself to a high level of excellence. I think people aren't used to, in this day and age, to working in an environment where excellence is expected sometimes, and so people get lazy, and I think that a lot of people arrive with so much pressure. I have to say, a lot of people arrive with pressure to pay off their student loans and make something of themselves, that they rush into things and feel somewhat entitled that they deserve something. But I mean, I just think that there's nothing in this life you don't deserve anything. Everything in this life is earned. You have to earn it, and too many people we see too many people coming into my company that are entitled, that feel that they deserve something because they studied this or studied that or went to that school, but unfortunately life just isn't like that. And it's just about letting your results speak for itself. Everything else will come if you get that balance right. You'll get the promotions, you'll get the rewards, you'll get financial reward if you just let your results speak for itself. Just work hard and hold yourself to excellence. Your passion will come, your opportunities will come, the universe will just open for you if you just, find your purpose and, do what you're meant to do. And whatever it is that you're doing in that moment, that's your purpose for that moment. Just hold yourself to accountable, own whatever you do, and hold yourself to a level of excellence that other people don't. And you'll stand out. I mean, when we get young people in our office, it's obvious to us, the ones that have that stand out above others. It's
the 9s are easy to find from the 6s.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you talk about excellence and achievements, and I know it's going to embarrass you because I know the humility that you have and carry with you, but I want to read a few of the awards that you've won. Entrepreneur of the Year, not once, but twice. Canada's top 40 under 40. Named the 50 best managed companies in Canada. Named Canada's top 100 employers. Named for 9 years into the Profit 100. Named the Platinum Award winner of the 50 best managed companies in Canada. Winner, 50 most engaged workplaces. Number 5, Institute Canada's happiest places to work. 100 best companies to work. 50 best companies to work in Toronto. But my favorite, the category killer, the one that really shows you had a goal and you met it, the number 1 best tour operator on earth.
Yeah.
Was Mars not available? Like, I mean, that's quite an award, right? It's not the best in Toronto, not the best in Canada. It's for the entire planet.
Yeah.
National Geographic, which knows a little bit about travel, names you number 1. What do all these awards mean to you?
Some of them are important, some of them are not. You know, awards are often given to me personally, which are awkward. But when they're given to the company, they're very important. I mean, it recognizes people's hard work, people's commitment to our brand. We strive on building a company, and like we promote our culture as part of our brand. So when, you know, our entire company gets recognized for, you know, whether it be an Ethics in Action Award or Best Managed Companies, it's a collective effort.
So why is it awkward then for you to take personal responsibility and pride when you win personally? Because the team succeeds, but you're also being noted personally. So why is it not awkward for the team, but it's awkward for you?
Yeah, I just always want our people to be recognized. I don't like being separated out, I guess. I mean, just this past November, I got put into the Hall of Fame at the Social Venture Institute in New York, and it was just me personally, and it was quite an event to be recognized. But first of all, I think it's early to put me in the Hall of Fame. I'm not ready to be put out to pasture just yet, and as well being separated out when, you know, especially in my business where I export services, right? The magic of my business is that I've managed to export services. I get someone in Denmark to book an African safari with a Canadian company. When there's thousands of Scandinavian options, or Germans book a tour in South America with a Canadian company. So that's the magic of our brand, and it's a collective effort. It's just not me. So I think it's also very different than other companies where the entrepreneur that's not selling services, that invents like a hard product like Apple or something. It's easier to recognize one person, but we're a movement, right? Like we create a movement of people, and it's just important for me that everyone gets acknowledged. And when I'm separated out, I feel that I'm taken away from the team.
Are there any goals, awards, recognitions that you haven't got that you'd really like to have gotten, that you're sad that you missed out on?
No, I don't know that sounds. I don't think we've ever applied for an award that we didn't get. I don't know. That sounds. I think we got 40 awards this year before May 1st. So we get, I think, close to 100 a year now, globally speaking.
Now, I know a lot of these awards are third party and are recognitions, but they can also lead to more interesting meetings. Can you tell me about your meeting with the Dalai Lama?
Yes. Well, I've met him a couple times. Once was in a room with many people, but recently he was in Canada last April, and so I was in his entourage for a few days where he visited. We just kind of followed behind as he did his various things, and it was a turning point for me too, because I've been kind of connected to his work for a very long time, and it spurred.
What did it mean to you?
Well, there's a greater story. I mean, I don't know if you want to segue into my book, but I mean, that was the motivation.
Well, you're getting a little ahead of me, because the truth is, I have a question here that I have to ask you. You're so busy. What are you doing writing a book? Like, I don't know how you could find time in it, but if you want to segue into that, that's absolutely fine.
Well, it's motivated by the Dalai Lama, so.
You know what? Why don't we watch the trailer for the book first?
Sure.
I got it up here. This will be the world exclusive trailer for Bruce's new book. Are we ready to see it? Are we ready? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to call it up here on the big screen.
Okay.
Bruce is the founder of G Adventures, but when you go beyond the title, he's not your typical entrepreneur.
It started out as a travel company built on the back of 2 credit cards, and
It's turned into the largest independent adventure travel company in the world.
You could see the drive in Bruce.
For as long as I've known him, he has talked about a lot of the principles that the Dalai Lama himself talks about.
In his mind, karma's a real thing. It was the first business model he ever had,
And it worked. I think he felt he needed to make a difference in the world. I think he saw that travel was the perfect vehicle for doing that.
The trips that Bruce initially started, and he obviously started with someone by the name of Delphine in Ecuador in the Amazon jungle.
He was looking to fill a space about a passion for travel. Somehow he's managed to bottle that passion that he has for travel himself and feed it to others.
hearing about the Explorer going down.
It was like a death in the family. There were literally people crying on the sales floor.
It scared the hell out of me when it first happened. You're dealing with the moment. You've got 150 passengers in peril there.
Bruce said very little the whole time. He told us, do what you're good at. We're going to fix this.
The best way to recover from it was to show people that we were strong, resilient, and going to be back.
It was a bad situation that had a happy ending.
You know, any company's personality is always going to be a reflection of the personality that was put there by the entrepreneur responsible for it.
Passion and purpose are the things that drive Bruce most. I mean, have a look at our core values. They are everywhere. And you know what? They're actually real.
I just find that culture has almost kind of transcended the company in a way, and I think it's what kind of binds the company together.
You always want to do your best here. Your work has real, genuine value.
I think Bruce realized very quickly that in order to be able to have a consistent brand, that everybody had to be working from the same script.
Meeting the Dalai Lama, that's when it all came full circle.
It validated everything for Bruce. He knew he was doing the right thing.
It just kind of energized him, not to do something different, but to keep on the path he is on and that he's putting the company on.
That looks absolutely fabulous. So tell me about it. This fall, the book is out.
Yeah.
Give us the backstory.
Oh, it's a very long story, but I've been asked to write a book for about 10 years and I refused. I then last year attempted to start writing a book and I scrapped the entire project in 2011. And then I met the Dalai Lama in April and I realized that was my turning point, that I had everything to say. So I went from having really not a lot to say to having a full book, a book that I was able to, and then there was a lot of excitement about it. Once I actually put the story down on paper, there was a bidding war with publishers in the States and in Canada, and it became a very, very big project. And it's now a major kind of book release. I think it's being shipped on the 17th of September this year.
So let's talk about the book.
Okay.
What's it called? What's it about? What are we going to take from it?
Well, the book's called Looptail.
Looptail.
And Looptail is the story of, I mean, the book picks up with me in Tibet in 1997, because that was one of the lowest points of the company where we'd actually gone bankrupt as a company in 1997. And I was in Tibet at the time.
So the company's doing poorly,
Yeah.
bankrupt. You decide to go on a vacation to Tibet. You just withdrew. You need a little downtime.
No, I was running an exploratory trip. So we used to sell trips for customers. And I had to go on this trip actually because we didn't have the money to pay the customers back if we wanted to cancel it. And the Canadian dollar dropped against the US dollar that year. I don't know if you remember. And suddenly a Canadian dollar was, $1.60 for a US dollar. And so all of our operations were in US dollars, but we sold in global currency. So the company went bankrupt almost within 6 months because we didn't have the forward buying or the systems to be able to catch the currency differences. So I came back and the company was a mess. I had a partner at the time who decided they wanted to leave because they couldn't handle. We were over $500,000 in debt. Our paychecks bounced for all of our staff that month when I came back. And
so you're 6 or 7 years into the business.
Yeah.
You've had some ups, some downs, some external things.
We've had a lot of growth.
We've
had a lot of growth because we've grown until that point to be a reasonable.
Now you're bankrupt and one of your partners doesn't want to be there.
No.
What's going through your mind? How does it feel to be so into your dream and it could be ending?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, you have to read the book. I can't tell you here now. I mean, that trip to Tibet changed my life, really. And that's what the book's about. And that's why meeting the Dalai Lama was so critical. And that's what Looptail is about. It's how, at that time, I changed everything about how I thought about business. Even though I'd been doing business from the 12 till 1997, everything that I thought about business was wrong from my experience. And I wanted to change how we did everything. And that was the universe was giving me that opportunity. And it might sound like it's a tragic moment. And when I was lying in bed many nights in Tibet on that trip, I was, wondering how we were gonna, it was the dream coming to an end, is how I thought. But by the time I came back, I knew that it was also my opportunity.
What happened to change that bad situation mentally into an opportunity? What happened in Tibet that made that impact?
I was understanding where my business had to be in terms of creating our brand around our people, our culture, building a brand that paid it forward. That there was no kind of word for sustainability at the time, so there was no sustainable tourism or the things that people hang on today. But I knew that there had to be a bigger connection with my company and how we benefited local people. And we started the foundation at that time, and we just changed everything to do with our business model. And we started on a path with what people call today, I guess, social enterprise, meaning mixing that kind of nonprofit and profit work, and having a purpose in our business outside of just making money, and driving that purpose through the business model and engaging employees and customers to a much higher purpose that transcended travel. And that sounds very big for an interview show like this, but get the book.
And I'm sure we
it's
all
very
will.
detailed in the book. Yeah.
You've done so much at a relatively young age. I mean, I feel that way after all these hours and all these years. What keeps you motivated today?
It's funny. I mean, I find different things that motivate me at different times. I have ebbs and flows like a lot of people. I was actually in a bit of a down turn over the last couple months myself in terms of finding my own personal motivation. I just actually came back this weekend. I brought 30 of my top employees from around the world to Las Vegas this last weekend. People from India and China and Africa and Latin America, just 30 random of my top people to Las Vegas this last weekend and there was no purpose other than everyone was kind of, when they got called to Vegas, they were kind of wondering, what's happening, but it was like a weekend about nothing. I kept telling them, I wanted to hear where people were, how they viewed my brand, where do we go next, what's our next big thing, and I needed to hear it from people that actually delivered our brand promise every day, not just my executive team that I have access to every day. It was amazing. So I mean, my passion now is driven by creating opportunities for people. We lift, thousands of people out of poverty every day with my business, and it's a huge responsibility. It becomes way beyond just a business. It's more of a calling, and that's a pretty huge motivator when you have such impact in people's lives. But I still have to be able to build because I'm a builder by nature. And if I can't do that, I think that I would probably not be the right person to lead the company and probably become a chairman or step down or whatever. But right now I'm, super motivated, super excited. But I don't know if that'll change in 6 months. Right now I'm, supercharged.
Well,
I think I'm good for the next couple of years anyways, but.
Maybe we'll have to revisit and see where we go.
Yeah.
Bruce, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Geez, I've received a lot of really good advice, but I mean, it's still around passion and purpose. I mean, to me, it's always been about finding your purpose, knowing why you're here in the universe to make your little dent in the universe, and being passionate about it and going all out. And I think that's the best advice I can give people. I know sometimes it comes across as cheesy to some people, but I think that's the best advice I've always had is following that passion and and understanding your purpose at every point. Because you have, as an entrepreneur, when you start, you're in a very different position because it's very hard when you're struggling. And then when you're successful, it's very hard because you're successful. And it's to stay on track with what your purpose is in the world.
Well, we're going to shift our purpose shortly as we move to student questions.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Poon tip.
Thank you, Bruce. That was really easy. Great.
My name is Lindsay Goodchild. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Green Gauge.
Jonathan Trump, founder and creative director of Tokyo Mouse Inc.
Mark Coleman, the co-founder and president of WebRocker.
No matter what the idea, be it product or service, profit or nonprofit,
Ryerson provides education, resources, and funding to help start and expand your businesses.
Relationships with other entrepreneurs can be a huge factor in your success. You may see that rock, and is it a diamond or not? How would you know? Talking with other entrepreneurs can help you know.
Welcome back, and now it's time for student questions.
Hi, Bruce. Thanks for taking my question. When developing travel packages for Gap Adventures, I imagine you had to do some sort of negotiating with hotel and activity providers in these destinations. So I guess the root of my question is, how did you convince these businesses of the potential value that your company had to offer them before you actually had the customers to back it up?
Well, it was easier back when I started, admittedly, because hotels, and there was no internet yet, right? There was no email, there was no fax machines back in 1990. People communicated by writing letters, mail, and telex. So the business was very different, so it was easier for us there wasn't that immediate demand. Like, people didn't book things a week before to go on vacation. People booked things way far in advance. So it was much easier for me to convince suppliers to give us services. It would be much more difficult now because everything is so instant and people have so much information at their fingertips that that they would, if they don't get the business here, they might get it here because there's just so much. But that didn't really exist when we started. And then by the time it caught up with us, we were a significant size that we could command a bit more, attention. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. My name is Warren Navarro.
Hello.
And I have a question about success. You said it's overrated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious why. You work so hard to become a success, to get everything going.
Yeah. I think that people define success differently. I just think it's overrated that people seem to be chasing success, but you can be successful in anything you do. I just think that, you get into a trap of constantly chasing success, and you can be successful in just about anything you do.
Bruce, let's drill down on that for a second, though.
Sure.
Right, you said that success is overrated.
Yeah.
But you're not talking about all successes. You're talking about some measuring by money. So let's try a different way. How do you define success?
Oh, well, for me, success is about my family and, being a better person and being a better dad and, all these, just on being a better leader and constantly getting better every day.
But what about the success associated with the thousands of people you've lifted out of poverty? What about the success for being recognized as a world changer? Or more importantly, what about being the world changer? Forget being recognized.
Yeah, I just don't equate those necessarily. That's success of the business, and I see myself outside of that. So, the business and what I do is successful. I just think that people define success differently, and it's such a big word that I just find it overrated because people are successful every day. You're successful in everything you do. You can be, and so people get into a trap of chasing it. It's just like, and it's combined. Our business model is revolves around a model of happiness, and that's something people chase all the time too. When it's right there for you in everything you do, and you should look at how you define it personally, find what your motivation is and why you're chasing success and how you define it. When you're first starting, sure, you want your business to be solid and you want it to make money. You want that turning point where you don't have to worry about, going
meeting payroll.
Yeah, meeting payroll and being seen as a real business. There's a point where you wake up one morning and you think, wow, this is a real business. I've reached, and I don't know if you define that as success, but that you've reached your goals, or you've done something that's, but success is something that is ever evolving, and it's defined differently by everybody.
So did meeting the Dalai Lama have anything to do with you changing your mind or changing the way you looked at success?
No, it didn't change the way I look at success. I mean, being, when you're successful, I mean, you get access to things like the Dalai Lama, or you get access to things that are kind of fringe benefits of being successful. And
like being invited on the TV show.
Yes, like being here today. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're any more successful than anyone else. I mean, you have to define what's successful to you. I think that people do. I mean, I meet people all the time that think it's successful if you can drive a sports car, or if you can have a big house, or they just define it differently. But that's just not how I define it. I mean, the company that I run, in many ways, it's my destiny. I feel like it's what I have to do, and I just feel that I'm the right person for it right now. And maybe in 2 years I might not be that person, but right now I am. I know that I am. So that's all I need to know, and that's my success.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name's Louis George, and Bruce, you talked a lot about passion and work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot easier to have a good work ethic if you are passionate about something. So my question is, how much time do you spend doing stuff that you don't want to be doing, and how do you manage that?
Well, I think that if I'm going to tell the truth, I probably spend very little time doing stuff that I don't like to be doing anymore. The truth be told, I've been doing this for 22 years. I would say 15 of it, I did a lot of stuff that I didn't like doing every day, and I was super passionate about it because I knew that I found it was my purpose. There was never anything that I wouldn't do. I would never ask anyone to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself, and I loved every minute of it. I loved waking up every day, and I did lots of, and there's a lot, every day there's lots of things that I had to do that I didn't necessarily like doing. Taking tough decisions, especially when you're fast growing and sometimes putting out fires. But I loved every minute of it because of the purpose behind it. Make sense? Okay.
Bruce, I want to thank you for sharing so much with us today, for truly opening up your business and showing what it's like to be a purpose-driven entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Poon. Tonight's guest was Bruce Poon Tip, CEO and visionary behind G Adventures. Bruce shared with us his 1-2 punch for success, combining passion with purpose. Thanks for watching The Naked Entrepreneur. I'm Dr. Sean Wise from Ryerson University.